Lecture 8. We are starting a new topic called loops. Let's consider this scenario. Suppose you want to write a Python program that prints numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on separate lines. It would be somewhat like you give somebody $5 in $1 bill. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's assume that we want to write such a program. You could write like this: print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5. It's a bit boring to do such a program, but it can certainly be done. What if you want to print numbers from 1 to 1000? It would be somewhat like giving somebody $1,000 in $1 bills. You'd be really tired of counting, right? You could write, perhaps you could write, if you have a lot of patience, a program that has 1000 print statements: print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, etc., all the way to print 1000. But then it is certainly painful. And what if you wanted to print 1,000,000 such numbers? Then it would be extremely difficult. So what we are talking about is repeating some activity that we want to do using our computer. That is where what are called loops come in. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Here is an example of this new topic that we are introducing. We have the first statement, number equals 1, which is familiar. We are storing 1 into number. Now we have something new, while. And we have a condition which is familiar to you from if statements, from selection statements: number less than 1001. So this, would evaluate through a Boolean value, true or false. Since number is 1 at this point, this will be 1. Number is 1. 1 is less than 1001. So this will evaluate to true. Now we have while sitting in front of this condition, which we have verified is true. So what Python will do is it will look at the statements that are indented. You have a colon here. We have a couple of statements that are indented. These two statements will be repeated until number is greater than or equal to 1001. As long as number is less than 1001, this condition is going to be true, and this will be repeated. These two statements will be repeated. So let's see once again what happens when this program is executed. Number would be set to 1. Then this while statement, that is what it is called, this while statement gets executed. So the meaning of the while statement is that Python will check the condition that follows the while. You have to have a condition that evaluates to true or false. All conditions evaluate to true or false. So number is 1. 1 is less than 1001. And you have to put a colon here. Since 1 is less than 1001, this evaluates to true. So Python executes the first statement here. It prints number, which is 1. So you'll see 1 on the screen. Then the next statement is number equals number plus 1. Since number is already 1, 1 will be added to 1, and you will get number equal to 2. Then Python will check this condition again. Now that we have finished everything that is indented, Python will check this again. Number is equal to 2, less than 1001. It will execute this again. Print number. So you'll see 2 on the screen. And number is now incremented. Number is now 3. Python will check this again. Number is 3, less than 1001. Condition is true. Python repeats these two statements, executing these two statements. So now 3 will be printed, then number will be 4. 4 is less than 1001. Again, we go through this. It keeps going like that. Assume that you have reached 998. When number is 998 is less than 1001, you will print 998. Number would be incremented to 999. You will check 999 against 1001. Still it is less, so the condition is still true. 999 will be printed. Then number will be incremented to 1000. 1000 is still, of course, number is still less than 1001. So number will be printed. You will see 1000. Number will now be 1000 plus 1. That is 1001. 1001 less than 1001 is false. So this condition is false. The loop ends. We say that the loop exits. Okay, so we have essentially a couple of statements here that are repeated. So the while statement is a loop. It repeats one or more statements that you put as part of the while loop. So you have to write while, then a condition, put the colon, and put statements as part of the while loop. So we have some activity here that gets repeated. So this is not unlike real life situations. As we already saw, giving somebody $10 in $1 bills. Giving $1 bill is an activity that is repeated 10 times here. Or you are given a bunch of numbers and are told to add up. For example, you are given number 2, then number 5, then number 3, number 4. So you are given a number, then you add it up. 2 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4. So adding up, or even receiving the number, adding it up. Those are two activities that you keep repeating. Or you have a coffee maker and you want to put coffee. So putting 1 spoon of coffee into the coffee maker is an activity that you repeat until you say, well, I have enough coffee powder to make coffee for these 6 friends of mine, you know, that kind of stuff. Or you have a meeting and you want to see how many people are there, so you keep counting, right? So counting 1 person is an activity that you repeat until you are sure that you have covered everybody. Or you have a meeting where you ask everybody their name and they respond with their name, and you repeat that activity for everybody in the room. Okay, so there is a bunch of actions that gets repeated. Now we need to use some terminology in our discussions regarding while loops or loops in general. There is going to be one more loop coming your way next week, that is for loops. You know that you write while loop like this, while, and you put a condition and you put a colon, and you can put a bunch of statements. These statements, I have shown them in red, is called the loop body. the stuff that is in green is called the loop header. Now, you have a column here, and all these statements are together. That is called a block. In fact, this terminology of a block applies to if statements too, or else statements, or elif statements. You can have a block of Python statements that are executed line by line as a group. So while is a loop in Python. Once again, this is the loop header, and these things in red are the loop body. When Python hits the while header, it evaluates the condition, and if the condition is true, this loop body is executed once. That is called an iteration, or we say that the loop is iterating. So we have a couple of more terms here. And after the loop is iterated once, the condition will be evaluated again. If it is still true, it will iterate a second time. After a second time, Python will check the condition again. If it is still true, it will iterate a third time. And it keeps going until the condition becomes false. Just about anything that you know, any statement that you know can be put as part of the loop body. Let's look at a couple of examples. Suppose you want to read a bunch of numbers from the keyboard and add them up and find the total. Let's say that you don't want to add a 0. In fact, when we get the number 0, we will quit. So if you get the numbers 2, 3, 5, 0, you will add 2, 3, and 5, and we will print 2 plus 3 plus 5, that is 10. As another example, suppose you get the numbers 7 to 0, then you will add 7 and 2, and then print 9. So whenever you get 0, you will stop. You could get negative numbers too. So our first step is to get a number. Let's examine this program. We are reading a number, putting that number into current. We need to find the total, right? So we will set total to 0 for the moment. So we haven't started adding anything. And if current is not equal to 0, if current is equal to 0, we don't want to continue. So while current is not equal to 0, we take this number current and add it to the total, and that would be the new value of total. Then we get the next number. And if that next number is also not equal to 0, we will iterate a second time and update the total with the new value of current. And we will ask for the next number in the sequence. And so it goes until the user types in 0. When the user types in 0, current would be equal to 0. This condition will be false, and we will quit the loop. And we will print the value of total. Now, you might wonder what the reason is for my highlighting a few things here. This is very typical. I mean, I'm not saying it is going to be there all the time, but you can expect to see these kinds of structures when you write while loops. You do some activity here, and that activity is repeated here at the very end of the loop body. We get the value of current We use that value of current here to check a condition, and we update the value of current by asking for it again. So this current is used as part of the condition. So it is given a value, otherwise this will crash. And from the problem context, that value has to come from the user. And we need to update this value every time we go through the loop iterations. So every time we end the loop body, at the time of ending the loop body, we are changing the value of current so that we know whether we should be repeating, whether we should be iterating the loop. So notice this and try to see why this is repeated. You want to change the value of current every time you go through the loop. That is why we have this line here. We want to have a value of current before we enter the loop. That is why we have this first statement over here. And also notice how we accumulate the total. We start with the value 0. When you are adding up, when you have added nothing, total is 0, right? So you should set total to 0 here. And as you get more and more values, you add that to total. These are idioms. These are things that you should understand very well, because you will be using this kind of a structure hundreds of times, many times throughout your programming career. Initializing something to 0, incrementing it or adding to it as you get more and more values, setting up while loops with a condition, ensuring that the variables inside the loop header are initialized before you enter the loop and updated within the loop body. Okay, so notice those things very carefully. There are more examples on the website, so I will encourage you to take a look at those. Here is an example that is on the website. You get a number from the keyboard, or you get a sequence of numbers from the keyboard, and you want to find out what is the maximum among those. For example, if you get numbers 2793, then you want to say 9 is the largest number. And we will assume that all numbers are greater than or equal to 0. So if you get a negative number, you will stop. So we read in a value, current, and at that point, let's assume that is the maximum value. That is the only value that we have seen, that is our maximum value. So we set max value to current. While current is greater than or equal to 0, so we get a new value here. We have a value here. And then we check if current is greater than the maximum value has changed. So let's imagine that we got 2 as the initial value. Maximum value would be equal to 2, and current is equal to 2. Current will not be greater than maximum value. At this time, they are the same. So max value will not be changed, and we set current to the next value that the user wants to enter. Suppose the user enters 3 now. Remember, the first one was 2. If the next one is 3, that is greater than or equal to 0, current is 3, it is greater than the max value, which is 2, so max value is now equal to 3. Now suppose the user enters 4. 4 is greater than or equal to 0. 4 is greater than the max value, which is currently 3. So max value now will be equal to 4. Now suppose the user enters 1. Current is 1. 1 is greater than or equal to 0, but current, which is 1, is not greater than max value, which is 4. So this will not be changed, and you will ask for current again. And suppose now we enter -1. -1 is not greater than or equal to 0. So this will quit the loop. And max value is 4 greater than or equal to 0. So it will print 4. On the other hand, if the first value itself was -1, then what will happen? Current equals -1 here. Max value is -1. Current is not greater than or equal to 0. So this loop doesn't iterate at all. And max value is -1. It is not greater than or equal to 0. So you'll come here and print no number greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so once again, please look at the examples on the website. Now, there are a few things that you should check. Actually, I have indicated them in the examples, and I want to emphasize those things again. Any variable that you have in the loop condition, in the while condition, has to have its value set before you come there. Otherwise, you get a crash. This is definitely wrong because I don't have anything in number, right? So this is not okay, what you have in red here. But this is okay because number is set to 1, so this won't crash. The second thing is, if a variable is involved in a condition in the while loop, it is usually the case that that has to be changed, or at least one variable involved in the while condition has to have its value changed. So that is not required, but it is very often the case. Otherwise, it might be an error. For example, here, number equals 1. While number is less than 25, number is 1, so it is less than 25, you iterate and you print something. Then you go and check. Number is still 1, less than 25, you will print something. Number is still less than 1, you will print something. So you'll get an infinite number of lines with something in it. Every line will say something. And this is certainly not something that you want to have. Whereas here, I am potentially changing the value of a number. There is an opportunity for it because I am asking the user to enter a new value of number here. So eventually I am able to exit the loop if the number is 25 or more. So please note these. So please note these errors, or check for these errors when you write your programs. They are very easy to make. They are very common. So as you do the labs, as you do the assignments, as you do other programs, check these very carefully. And also notice the structure here of having the statement repeated. This is quite common. I'm not saying this is always the case. This is very common in while loops.